So I'll be starting with economics for CFA level 1. Now in your curriculum, you have two parts, which is macroeconomics and microeconomics. You have the basic concepts of demand, supply, production cost and markets in microeconomics, and then foreign exchange, incomes, GDPs, etc. in the macro part, right? So today we will be starting with the basic concepts of demand, supply and elasticities. Now I am to understand that you have a basic knowledge of what is demand, supply, utility, want, etc. Just go through it once. Now, as you all know, demand is desire to purchase a product backed by willingness to buy it and purchasing power, which is your ability, right? So you should have the desire to buy it, you should have the willingness and the purchasing power to buy it. We all know how a demand graph goes. If I am to draw a graph here, this is going to be my y-axis, this is going to be my x-axis. We always take the independent variable on the x-axis, so we'll take quantity here, and the dependent variable on y-axis, which is the price. Now my graph for demand is downward sloping to the right because of the law of demand, which states that demand is inversely proportional to price. We know this because for a consumer, since demand is backed by its utility, that is the want satisfying power of a commodity, as a consumer buys more and more of a product, the price has to go on decreasing, because since he already has a part of that product, buying more means that the utility of that product is going on decreasing. Now since the utility goes on decreasing, the consumer is not going to be willing to pay more price for it. So as the demand increases for a product, the price is going to go on decreasing. The main reason for this is the diminishing law of marginal utility, right? Now how this happens is, as the quantity goes on increasing here, the price goes on decreasing. These two go in opposite directions, right? So if this is the price, this is the quantity. Simple enough. So if the price is high here, the quantity demanded is less. If I reduce the price, the quantity demanded is automatically more. And if the price is too low, then the quantity demanded is too high. So these three focal points on the demand graph are the points where your price is meeting the quantity, right? So at the highest price, your demand is the lowest, and your lowest price, demand is the highest. We all know these basic concepts, right? Now let us go towards elasticities. Now what exactly do you mean by elasticity? Elasticity is how elastic or responsive one thing is relative to another. Now when we talk of demand elasticities, it is simply the responsiveness of demand to price. But how? It is responsiveness of change in demand to change in price. Now when we do delta D by delta P, you can again substitute D for quantity. Now if I have to write elasticity of demand, the formula for that will be percentage change in demand upon percentage change in price. So that means how much is the demand of a product going to change according to the change in price. So it's the responsiveness of change in demand to change in price, right? So if the price is decreasing by 1%, will the demand increase or decrease by 1%, 2%, 3%, right? That is how you calculate elasticity. Now change can be always calculated keeping in mind the original values, right? So if I have to find percentage change, first of all, change will be the original quantity. So let's take Q0 as the original quantity minus Q1, which is the new quantity. So this will be the change, which is delta Q. I have to find a percentage of it. So I have to divide it by Q0, right? Into 100 upon same thing for price, P0 minus P1 upon P0, right? Now if I again rewrite this, this becomes delta Q by Q0 divided by delta P by P0. Cross multiplying it, delta Q by Q0 into P0 by delta P. Again we should rearrange this to have delta Q by delta P into P0 by Q0. Now this is the slope of a demand graph. Change in quantity upon change in price. So if these are 2 points, suppose Q1, Q2, Q3, this is P1, P2, P3. If I have to find out the slope of the line at this point, I'll be doing Q3 minus Q2, change in quantity upon change in price, P2 minus P1, change in quantity upon change in price. That is how I come to the elasticity part, right? Now you know this. Now let us go to some basic concepts before calculating elasticity. Now one of the major things to remember is, since demand and price are inversely proportional, know this, that elasticity for any kind of normal good is always going to be negative, because it's not possible for a good to have a positive elasticity unless it is an exception to demand. Now what all types of elasticities can be there? You can have elasticity equal to 0, which means that the product or the good is rigid. It does not change according to change in price. You have extremely elastic product, that is infinitely elastic, or you can call it perfectly elastic, right? And you have unitary elasticity, which means that the elasticity is 1, which means the percentage change in quantity is equal to the percentage change in price. Now how the graphs for this will go is, if it is a rigid product, that is elasticity is 0, the graph is going to be vertical parallel to your y-axis. Why this? Because then the quantity remains constant. No matter how much the price changes, the graph is not going to change, right? Now if the same thing is plotted for perfectly elastic, which means that a small change in price is going to cause a huge change in the quantity demanded, the graph is going to be parallel to the x-axis, and this elasticity is infinite. A small change in price is going to cause a huge change in quantity demanded, right? So from this we got to see that delta Q by delta P is the slope of a line. From this we get the general equation of a demand function. Now we know what a function is. Function is the relative relationship or the concept between two variables x and y. So if I have to put it in the terms of an equation, I can write quantity demanded is equal to x plus py. Now p stands for price, and these x and y's are constants. Right? So let us take a sum now. If I have an equation, quantity demanded is 1,38,500 minus 12,500 P, right? And if I have to find out, they have asked in the question, I have to find out the price elasticity, okay, and the price is given at the rate of $3 per gallon. Now first of all, before finding the elasticity, once I can find the slope, I can find the elasticity. It's a bit more complicated than the normal elasticity questions where they have given you original quantities and the new quantities. Now what you do is, since they have given you the price, the first step is to find out the quantity, since they have already given you the equation. So just substitute 1,38,500 less 12,500 into 3. This will give you, I'm just using my calculator, This is giving me 37,500. This is giving me on the Calci 101,000 units. Now this is the quantity I got, right? Right? Now a thing to remember here is this right here, what you see, which is Q is equal to A plus Py. This y is the slope. It is similar to the equation of a line, which is y is equal to mx plus c, right? Here m is the slope and the other things are the constants, right? So here take it as y is the slope of the line. So here 12,500 is the slope. Now if I have to substitute this in the original equation, I know that elasticity is founded by slope, that is delta q by delta p, into P0 upon Q0. I just found out that I derived this equation for you guys. Right now I have the slope here, I have P0 and Q0. So find out the elasticity. I'll simply write 12,500, right? And in the question the slope was negative, yeah. So it's negative 12,500 into P0 was $3 per gallon upon quantity was 101,000, right? So let's just calculate that. It's coming out to be negative 0.37. Now here the elasticity is negative. Now remember one thing, if I have to plot it on the graph, there can be 5 types of elasticities, guys. First of all, unitary elastic, then as you all know, this is perfectly inelastic. Parallel to x-axis is perfectly elastic. This between unitary and perfectly elastic is relatively elastic, and this is relatively inelastic, right? Here elasticity is 1, here elasticity is greater than 1, here elasticity is infinite, here elasticity is less than 1, and here elasticity is equal to 0, right? Now here if it is less than 1 or even smaller than 0 or a negative figure, you can call it as relatively inelastic. If it is greater than 1, it is elastic. If it is less than 1, it can be relatively inelastic, right? If it was greater than 1, it will be relatively elastic. So this is how you find out the elasticity of a product. Now there are different types of elasticities. This was price elasticity. If I have to find out income elasticity, the formula will be same, but it will just be percentage change in income upon percentage change in quantity upon percentage change in income. So I'll be calculating the responsiveness of demand to the change in income. And then the last thing is cross elasticity, which means percentage change in the quantity demanded of one product upon the percentage change in the price of another product. Now these other products can be either substitutes or complements, right? So if I have to find out how the demand is changing according to the change in the price of its substitute or complement, I find out the cross elasticity, right? Right. So now let us go to some different kinds of goods that we have. Now first of all, goods are divided into 3 to 4 categories. First come inferior goods, which are very poor quality goods, right? Then you have the luxuries, you have necessities in between them, and you have comforts. Now comforts are something which are necessary, you can live without them, but they make your life comfortable. So they come sort of like a cushion between necessities and luxuries, right? Now inferior goods are very, very cheap. These are cheap goods. These are highly expensive goods. and these fall somewhere midway. So these are like the normal goods. Now there will be certain effects what a consumer will be undergoing while purchasing these different types of goods. The first thing is understanding the difference between substitutes and complements. Now when we talk of substitutes, you have, suppose I take two kinds of goods which the consumer can easily substitute with each other. So suppose I take the example of tea and coffee, and it's a very simple logic actually. If the price of the substitute good increases, then I as a consumer won't be willing to buy that good. For example, if I like tea and coffee both and the price of tea shoots up, I won't be interested in buying tea, I'll be interested in buying coffee. Similarly, now if the price of tea is high, means its demand is low, and if the price of coffee is low, means its demand is high. So the demand and price of substitute goods are going to go in the same direction, and the demand of the substitute goods are going to go in the opposite direction. For example, if you have two choices of buying products A and B, and the price of product A is 50, price of product B is 30, right? $50 and $30. You are obviously going to be inclined to buy product B because it costs you less. Now when we talk of complements though, these are joint goods, they cannot function without each other. For example, if you take vehicles and petrol, so if the demand for vehicles increases, so does the price so does the demand of petrol increases, and the same thing goes for price, then the price will decrease. So here it's opposite, that the demand and price of complements, they go in the opposite direction, and both the demands go in the same direction. This is substitutes and complements. Now the two effects that will be taking place are substitution effect and income effect. What happens is, when you have an option of X and Y, X costs $30 and Y costs $10, right? If you substitute your choice for X to Y, you save on income. So here your income is saved and your demand increases because of the saved income due to the substitution effect. Now what happens in income effect is, when the price of a product is falling, suppose from $30 to $10. Now here I am saving $20, right? Now this is an increase in my disposable income. Now since this increases, there is an increase in my purchasing power, and this causes an increase in demand due to income effect, right? Now what happens in the two special kinds of goods, which are Giffen goods and Veblen goods? Let us understand this. Now, Giffen goods are a type of inferior goods. Most students get confused in this, so please pay attention. It's a type of inferior good. Now, what happens is, generally, when the price of an inferior good falls, its demand should increase, because if the price is falling, the demand should increase. But it doesn't happen so in Giffen goods. Why? Because if it's already an inferior good and its price is decreasing, the income saved will be spent by the person in buying something else. For example, if a person can buy meat and bread, now bread here being an inferior good, right? I am taking the example of the 1929 depression here, and if your total budget is $100 and out of that you're spending, I guess, 20 on meat, okay, let's make it 30 and make your budget 60. 30 on meat, 50, 30 on meat and 20 on bread. Now if the price of bread comes down to $5, you're saving 15 bucks, right? Now the 15 bucks, instead of buying bread, you will go and buy meat because you're already getting less of it. So here, despite of it being an inferior good, because of your real income increasing, you tend to prefer the good which is not an inferior good or which is a luxury for you, because this is a staple. Whether it costs $20 or $5, you can only eat 3 to 4 slices of bread in a meal, but you need more meat and it's a luxury. So if the money is saved, you won't tend to buy more of the inferior good, because it's again all human nature and consumer nature. You'll go and buy meat. So that is a Giffen good. Now Veblen goods are conspicuous goods or luxuries which is caused due to inducement. inducement through your peers or through people you see. If you see something that your peers are buying a certain product, you are induced visually to buy that. So Veblen effect is sort of a luxury good or a conspicuous good which first of all you see, and because its price is high, it adds prestige or it adds value to your assets. So having that is sort of a prestige issue, right? It adds value. The more expensive it is, the more you can flaunt it in your peers. So these are all expensive goods, and it's a matter of pride there, and it's a status symbol or a prestige. For example, if there are two people, one of them has a BMW and the other one drives a Hyundai, so he will definitely want to buy a BMW just to compare himself with his peer, because it won't match up in the social strata where they are working or where they are residing together, right? So this is purely to match their status. Now what is happening in Giffen goods is the income effect is greater than the substitution effect, because here the price is falling, he is substituting it, but since his income is more, that is why his income is being substituted in meat rather than buying more of the inferior good, right? Here the income effect and substitution effect have got nothing to do with it, because this is purely for keeping your status and prestige symbols, right? So we have covered for things for demand elasticities, right? The main thing here was calculating elasticity by this formula, and remember this slope of a line, which will make it easy for you to remember. So the general formula will be quantity is A plus Py, price into slope. Please remember that, price into slope. Please solve the questions relating to elasticity, and if you have any doubts, we'll solve them in the next lecture.